WHGE 95.3 FM coming up, the Open Eye.
Those of us that indulge or commit intellectual violence pleasure of
all right.
Thanks a lot, man. Change impression of minds and deep.
I can't wait to present. Good morning, my children of the sun. Welcome to the Open Eye on WHGE 95.3 FM. I'm your host, Third Eye Optometrist, Patrice Gibbs, here to get that third eye open. I got a lot for you today. Hang in there. Sorry I came in a little late with a little technical difficulties, but we got them straight. All right. Let me get my disclaimer out the way, and we're going to get them started, okay? At least I thought I did, okay. All right, what's going on here? Don't act up on me today here. Alright, having a little problem here. Yeah.
Every now and then.
Yeah, always something. Come on, computer. Alright. Nope. That flows too much there. We got to get a new computer. Close the wrong stuff. Let's try this. Okay, there we go. All right. Yeah, right. Got it straight. You want to come in and stand in on the show, man? Yeah, you more than welcome to if you like to.
Our sponsor, developers that are from this day. Any content provided by Open
Gotta have a couple things to do for this afternoon anyway.
Ethnic group, company, or individual.
All right. All right, we got them straight now. Let's get them going. Hey, boy, how you doing, bro? I see you on there. Let's see. All righty, let's get them started. Hold on, let me fix up this thing so my music's straight. All right, let's see. Add on there. Okay, we straight. All right, let's get them going. Welcome to the Open Eye, WHGE 95.3 FM. Every generation has its purpose. Ours is to reveal the truth and reverse the brainwashing, and that's what we do here on Open Eye. All right. Black folks, teach your children. They are direct descendants of the greatest and proudest race who ever peopled the earth. And it is because of the fear of our return to power and the civilization of our own that may outshine others why we are hated and kept down by a jealous, prejudiced, and contemporary world. That's a quote from Marcus Garvey. All right. We definitely need to teach our own, especially with what's going on with the way they're trying to whitewash history. For instance, I got this from a sister. She's a historian and what have you. I was taught to remember the Mayflower. I was taught to mourn the Titanic. But the ships that carried my ancestors, solids. I once heard 12,000 and went looking for names. What I found was even larger and somehow more invisible. Historians have documented over 36,000 transatlantic slaving voyages that forced about 12.5 million Africans onto ships, and only 10.7 survived to disembark in the Americas. That's for you pretendians. For you damn people that say we're not African and there was no slave trade, and go to hell. Then came the number that's as heaviest on my heart. Roughly 1.8 to 2 million people died during the Middle Passage itself. Lost to disease, starvation, suffocation, violence, and the ocean. That's not counting the lives crushed on African shores or on the plantations after arrival. Just the crossing were the markers for that sea of unburied dead. Where's the roll call? Well, we can name some of the ships if we choose to remember. The Brooks, whose infamous diagram stacked human beings like cargo, helped ignite abolitionist outrage. The Zong, where enslavers threw more than 100 Africans overboard and then tried to claim the loss as insured cargo. The Clotilda, burned and sunk to an illegal 1864 voyage. Its wreckage identified in Alabama waters in 2019 and tied to the living community of Africa Town. The Henrietta Marie, a slaver that sank near the Florida Keys. Divers recovered shackles, beads, and a bell bearing her name. Artifacts that speak when textbooks refuse. Say their names because our curriculum rarely does. And yes, there are people trying to honor this loss, but too often out of sight. The Middle Passage ceremonies and Port Makers Project places memorials at U.S. ports where captive Africans arrived. In Newport, Rhode Island, a local project does the same. Even now, researchers are identifying clusters of wrecked slave ships in the Bahamas. An underwater highway to horror that reminds us how much grief still lies below the surface. We should know these efforts as readily as we know the names of European liners. For generations, schools taught us Africa had no history. How can that be when African history is locked behind the glass in your museums and embedded in the very economies those voyages built? If the artifacts exist, then so do the people. The polities, the scientists, the sailors, the mothers, the griots, the metallurgists. You turn the story with the same urgency you kept the objects. Teach the ships, teach the ports, teach the people, because memory is a choice and forgetting has been a policy. WHGE 95.3 FM, Dope and I. Hey, Sherry, I see you, sister. Excuse me. All right. Patrice Gibbs, your third eye optometrist here. Let's keep it moving. All right. Ever stop to consider why the United States does not have nearly as nice things as other developed countries? You ever wonder about that? Modern countries, developed countries, why doesn't the United States have the things they have? Like free higher learning, look it up. All sorts of countries have it. Or universal health care, look it up. All parts of countries have it. Or free child care, look it up. All sorts of countries have it. Or high-speed rail, look it up. Tons of countries have it. Or good public infrastructure, look it up. Most developed nations have it. The United States has crumbling roads, no high-speed rail, and higher education is impossible to afford. Good luck finding health care for a reasonable price, and child care, reasonable? Not in this country. However, there is always money in the banana stand to go to war. And you know why that is? Because war means big money for the ruling class. No politician that's ever turned down a good war to go to. And it's going to stay just like that until we get these people out of office. The American public no longer wants to go to war for people who don't give a damn about the sanctity of our lives. Truly, the era of wanton imperialism is over. And I want you to know that the reason you don't have nice things like other developed countries is because it's a racist-ass country and a warmongering country. How'd I throw racism in there? Because never forget what I told you. We don't mind if it hurts us as long as it don't help them. That's what white supremacy says. And of course, being the warmongers that they are, and realizing the profit in war, keeping black people down and going to war is what keeps America behind. Wake up. WHGE 95.3 FM. Open eye. Right. And that's what keeps us going on. Yeah.
When you was talking about the middle passage, it made me think about something I won some years ago. Sharks used to follow the ships, though, because they would. I mean, not only were they throwing anybody over to die, but people were saying, "I ain't going for this," and we're jumping.
That's right. And you wonder why sharks don't eat black people now? Because they had their fill of dark meat. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. All right. I'm gonna stay with some history here. All right. And some of our people actually do have indigenous blood. Okay. But don't get it mixed with these damn pretendians who want to pretend that they are not Africans. Now I get some people who look at the relationship between the African and the indigenous, what's so-called Native Americans, not a good term. Because how you going to oppress the people and steal their land, and then when you do anything for them, you give them your goddamn name, which is sullied in blood. All right? This dude asked this question. He says, look closely at the romanticized depictions of the Trail of Tears. Wasn't nothing romantic about that. What's missing? The thousands of black people, enslaved Africans, forced to march alongside the Native Americans. Yes, many Native nations collectively owned enslaved Africans. That's not slander. It is history. But understand this. Indigenous people did not invent chattel slavery. It did not exist in the Americas until Europeans dragged it here like the plague, shoving their disease-ridden systems of ownership and dehumanization across the ocean. Some native tribes adopted chattel slavery under the crushing pressure of colonial violence, hoping it might help them survive extermination or further displacement. Others resisted and even used the system against its inventors. Some purchased enslaved Africans only to free them, marry them, and build free families together. The Seminoles are a perfect example. In Florida, they welcomed up to 1,000 Africans fleeing bondage, forging alliances, building communities, serving as warriors, advisors, interpreters, and leaders. They've terrified white slaveholders so much they were accused of sparking rebellions, because they were. Don't get it mixed. This whole reality resisted only because white colonizers created the system. So don't rewrite history to blame people trapped in it. Double standards and sanctified blood. Let me break that down. Okay? You condemn Aztecs for ritual human sacrifice. Yeah. But clutch crucifixes celebrating a ritual human sacrifice at the heart of Christianity. The same people who turn crucifixion into jewelry want to lecture others about barbarism. During the siege of Tenochtitlan, 95% of the fighters of the Spanish side were native people rebelling against Aztec domination, tired of being abducted for sacrifice. Really? Really? That's what this clown said that was debating this. Yes, the Aztecs practiced it. Yes, that's true. But after decades of excavation at Templo Mayor, archaeologists found about 650 skulls, not the 20 to 80,000 the Spaniards claimed. Those wild numbers were lies, propaganda to justify colonization, just like today, when Israelis call Palestinians terrorists to justify genocide over 61,000 civilians. Or when FBI and Department of Homeland Security admit white supremacists are the top terror threat while politicians demonize immigrants who statistically commit less crimes. It's the same colonial playbook, century after century. The real barbarism. This moral outrage rings hollow from descendants of Europeans who bull people alive. burned women at the stake, beheaded the dissenters, tore open mouths and anuses with Judas cradles. These people were sick, and they would stretch people until their limbs snapped on the rack. And those weren't the rare atrocities. They were state-sanctioned tortures inflicted on their own people and their neighbors. Ask Ireland. Yeah. Ask Ireland. These same empires industrialized death, enslaved entire continents, dismembered cultures, and called it civilization. How the hell? So spare us the fake moral outrage. Stop hurling stones at the temples of others while standing in your genocidal glass house. The real savages didn't wear feathers. They wore crosses. Little history lesson. I don't know if I said hey, Sherry, but hey, sister, how you doing? All right.
All right.
Yes, indeed. Let's keep going with the history. And this is something that a lot of us didn't realize was going on. Okay, and it's something because where the money came from to do this. Okay, I have often praised. Okay, and that's Eisenhower. When he raised the tax rate, he told the rich during his time, okay, either reinvest in the country or I'm going to take your money. And he raised the tax rate up on rich people to 90%. Yes, 90%. But what came out of that?
I-95.
Check it out. Check it out.
And where did it come through?
Why does Dallas bury the story of America's most successful black financial district? Deep Ellum. They don't want you to know this, but Dallas once had a thriving black empire that was minting millionaires before most white folks even knew what jazz sounded like. Ever walked through Deep Ellum and felt something different in the air? Like ghost of greatness? That's because Deep Ellum wasn't just some neighborhood. It was a financial powerhouse that once had white city officials absolutely terrified. Picture this. Black-owned banks so successful they were funding businesses across the entire state of Texas. Picture this. Insurance companies founded and run by formerly enslaved men and women now building legacies of wealth. Picture this. Children of formerly enslaved becoming richer than the grandchildren of their former enslavers. Picture this. Jazz clubs where icons like Bessie Smith and Louis Armstrong didn't just perform. They invested, bought property, and became part of the economic engine. This was generational wealth being built in real time right in front of a white establishment that had always told itself black success was impossible, and it drove them crazy. The quiet demolition of black prosperity. So what did they do? They didn't burn it down in a single night like Tulsa Greenwood District. No, they was a little more calculating. They used policy, and they called it urban renewal. Y'all know about that? Highways became their weapons. Development became their excuse. And by the 1960s, they had systematically bulldozed millions of dollars in black wealth and paved it with concrete and then called it progress. Deep Ellum produced more black millionaires per capita than Harlem ever did. But Dallas buried that story completely. They erased it from school books, from headlines, from the city's memory. So if you ever walk through Deep Ellum in Dallas and wonder why it feels like a place out of time, like something powerful once lived there, now you know. Remember what was stolen. This isn't just history, it's a warning. Because if they could erase an empire once, they could erase it again. And it happened right here in Wilmington. I-95 was right through the center of our city where a thriving black community on Adams and Jackson Street were. Right here through our city. I'm going to tell you something else about the interstate highway a lot of people don't realize. They surround black communities. This was not happenstance. This was done on purpose, because if black people ever rise up in any great numbers, they have access to us through the highway and can lock us in. Be prepared. Keep your eyes open. Pay attention to detail, because there's levels to this thing. Understand that. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. Yes,
You'll enjoy this.
I know that.
He got the history, and he interspaces it with some humor.
I heard that. Yes, all right.
They don't tell you in books, that you get in school that, when the Pilgrims and John Smith and all of them came over here, that they, the Native Americans kept them from starving to death.
How about that? WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. All right. It's something I'm sure you all have heard what's going on and what have you. I'm going to get on to that later. Yeah. But the thing that trips me out, and always will, is the insanity of black conservatism. Okay. And some open-eyed listeners know I told the story about this before. I kind of updated it some. A few years ago, there was this guy who came on talk radio here locally named Talib Starks, who describes himself as an American who happens to be black. Yeah, how you like that? Yeah. An American who happens to be black. He presents himself as a filmmaker, an activist, a social worker, a mentor, and an author. I wouldn't let him mentor no goddamn body. What he often neglects to mention, but will concede if pressed, is that he is also a conservative. And he authored a book called The Uncivil War, Blacks versus N-Words, in which he declares, this is his words, admittedly and justifiably, as a black man, I possess multi-layered animosity towards the dysfunctional sociopathic subculture that openly exists within the African American community. This trend is unique to the N-word subculture. He said the word right out. Our mission is to expose and ostracize the dysfunctional, criminally prone N-word subculture. Recently, Starks appeared on local radio show to promote his book, and he was the guest co-host on the show, a white conservative extremist known for his racist, inflammatory rhetoric. I'm not going to call his name. I don't want to get that bastard no publicity. Starks proudly boasted his friendship with this fool, and even cited that fool's book, this white supremacist book, okay, as part of his own research. The fact that Starks draws from a white supremacist, poorly written, factually bankrupt screed is in itself a glaring indictment of the Uncivil War as a worthless publication. I have no intention of reading it and sincerely hope it lands on the worst sellers list, because it's BS. But you know me, I can't keep my mouth shut, so I was compelled to call in during his interview, and I asked him if he believed the oppression of the past and the structural barriers still in place have any impact on the challenges facing the black community today. He flatly replied, they do not. Big surprise. And he said, blacks need to stop crying victim and liberals are enablers. Why do black people always want to bring up the past? At that moment starts echo the rhetoric of white conservative extremists who pretend history has no bearing on present day inequality. There was no need to continue the conversation. To leave Starks as a textbook example of the insanity of black conservatism. It would take more than a 15-minute radio segment to undo the deep internalized oppression he embodies. The psychology of black conservatism. Is it fair to view black conservatism as a form of political or psychological self-sabotage? Perhaps even a form of madness? The question is worth considering. How else can you explain figures like Candace Owens, Tim Scott, Herman Cain, Clarence Thomas, and Talib Starks? People willing to march in lockstep with those who have openly expressed hostility to the black community. How do we explain those who embrace their oppressors and view their own community with contempt? Sellout is often used, and it fits in many cases, but not all. Some are purely opportunists, chasing wealth and notoriety. Others are actually true believers, which is really scary. Now, you want to be rich and famous? We talked about this so many times, Vaughn. Become a black conservative and run for office. During your campaign, make statements so outrageous they become media fodder. Hurl insults at black people so venomous that the most racist conservatives grin with delight. Even if you lose, your nest will be well feathered. Book deals, speaking engagement, cable news appearances, and maybe even the crown jewel. A slot on right-wing talk radio. Yeah, Candace Owens is a prime example of that. Now, true believers are something else entirely, and they are the strongest evidence of the pathology at the heart of black conservatism. They possess an almost supernatural ability to ignore or rationalize the most blatantly racist statements and actions from their white conservative allies. They excuse hostility toward black people so persistently that critics eventually give up in frustration. In their desperate quest for white approval, they adopt the same disdain and hostility toward their own people. They look down their noses at working class and poor black communities, referring to them as ghetto, those people, or as Starks does, the N-word subculture. Caught myself. True believers generally think they are helping. They actually believe that. Stark sincerely believes black people will be better off embracing conservative ideology. He denies that centuries of oppression shape present conditions. He denies that systemic racism in education, employment, housing, and the justice system still creates barriers. He insists that poverty, crime, and dysfunction are the natural outgrowth of laziness and immorality. And because of this delusion, he advocates for the identification and ostracism of what he calls the N-word subculture. What that mean? What's that mean? Ostracize how? Banish them from where? Build more prisons? Deport them to some island? The sheer absurdity of the solution reveals how deranged it is. And yes, it is insanity. Black conservatism, when it takes the form embodied by people like Talib Starks, is not just misguided. It is a psychological surrender, wholesale adoption of the oppressor's gaze, and the rejection of one's own humanity. It is self-hatred dressed up as tough love. It does not, and it does profound harm to the very community it claims it wants to save. And how many times have I told you? I will not debate these people because I'm not going to argue with somebody, Harriet Tubman, with a shot. WHGE 95.3 FM.
I like that. Somebody that Harriet Tubman with a shot. I like that. Because you can't argue with stupid.
No, you can't.
Because anybody that's looking at two people arguing and they can't figure out who's who, then they will think you both.
That's right. That's right. Let's go with this. All right. And for y'all that don't know, the voice you hear in the background is Brother Alan Lawrence. He's the host of the Weekend Review. Right here at 5.
At 5.
Right, on WHGE 95.3 FM. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. All right. I know y'all keep up on the news. So I know you hip about this, about the ICE Karen. All right. That damn fool didn't see the big picture, like most of them don't. She only thought of herself and how she could benefit from doing some Karen type behavior. And I'm talking about that silly ass hussy that called ICE on that Hyundai factory. A MAGA congressional candidate. She's now being trolled relentlessly online, and well, she should be, at the announcing. And she did it with her full chest. Got on TikTok and announced that she told on, yup, I sure did, that she tipped off ICE about alleged workplace violations at the Hyundai plant in Georgia that was raided last week. Her name is Tori Branham. She's a 47 U.S. Marine Corps veteran, firearms instructor, and she said in social media posts and in interviews that she reported the battery plant, which was under construction. Okay, this was under construction near Savannah, and it was going to bring a lot of jobs. About 475 people were detained, including 300 South Korean nationals. And what was the reaction from South Korea? It pissed them off. That's worrying. And they had agreed in July to invest $350 billion in the U.S. in exchange for Trump lowering the duty on Korean products from 25% to 15%. And the tariffs are paid by American companies, with the cost typically passed on to consumers. That's right. I have gotten hate mail from all over the country with people telling me to die or that I should live in fear. I serve this country and I'll go down with the ship before someone silences me, dumbass. Over the past few days, she has been inundated with social media comments accusing her of undermining Trump's economic agenda and creating a diplomatic scandal with one of the U.S.'s closest allies. Okay? And like Sister Sherry said, the U.S. cost Georgia close to 9,000 jobs. And pissed off South Korea. You got a Samsung? That's what my phone is. My phone is a Samsung. Where we get it? Hyundai, Kia. And the factory that they were going to build. Now, they sent a plane and give us our people. And the orange disaster regime, now they begging them, oh, they could come back, ain't gonna be no problems. They was here illegal. Nope, the hell with you. And I don't blame them. That's where you dumbass, you literally killed the economy in your own area with your racism, bigotry,
And stupidity.
And stupidity. Yeah. That's word. With her stupidity. Patriotism is not short, frenzied outbursts of emotion, but the tranquil and steady dedication of a lifetime. She put that up, quoting Benjamin Franklin, put up some stuff that you don't even understand. Golly day. This is what you get. This is what you get. Chickens voting for Colonel Sanders. WHGE 95.3 FM. Dove and I. Hey, bro, sometimes when you help me comment, you kind of throw me off.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah,
My bad.
Okay. All right. Patrice Gibbs here, your third eye optometrist. All right. Something I think a lot of people need to hear right now, especially with what's going on. Ideals are powerful, and the wrong ones are dangerous. Hitler was able to kill 12 million people without lifting a finger, just through the power of his voice. Racism, hatred, bigotry is not just a difference in opinion. Understand that. Hitler didn't start with camps. He started with Make Germany Great Again, banning books, targeting the press, blaming immigrants, creating enemies from neighbors, defunding the arts, stoking fear of outsiders, demonizing educators. Does any of this sound familiar? Because it should. There's no both sides here. The political aggression and taste for violence against innocent people are coming from the left. That's what this idiot Blake Masters said. It's right there on the surface. Our grandparents were the original anti-Nazis. No, they weren't. No, they weren't. And what's a Nazi today? To a modern day liberal, is anyone who opposes chemical sterilization of confused children and believes violent criminals should be removed from society. If you support any basic rear guard action about having any kind of decent society at all, the left thinks you're evil and hopes for your demise. And that's the mindset of these right-wing fools. The problem with this narrative is that even if you set aside the pipe bomb sent to Democratic politicians, the vicious assault on Paul Pelosi and the murder of Melissa Hortman and her husband and their dog, and you shouldn't set them aside. It requires you to not count as political violence the many mass shootings committed by right-wingers over the last 10 years, which is a silly thing to do. Robert Bowers, John Ernest, Patrick Crossius, and Ryan Palmer are all right-wing white nationalists who carried out mass shootings and killed many, many people for ideological reasons. So it's preposterous to claim that aggression against innocent people only comes from the left. That's just silly. And what's going on now? Let's get right to it. Okay, I got some stuff here for you. Wait a minute. Yeah. I'm gonna start here with Spencer Cox. Okay. As we all know, Charlie Kirk was murdered at a rally. And I'm going to tell you how I feel about that. And one of the reasons I brought up black conservatives is because I have seen so many black people on these internets. One, either A, crying. Actually seeing black women. Wait a minute. Yeah. Actually seeing black women crying, sobbing for Charlie Kirk. This dude would make a Klansman blush. And you know, well, you shouldn't speak ill of the dead. The hell with that. Yeah, I seen some people say, you know, you should have empathy. We're better than that. We should be above that kind of behavior. I don't wish death on anyone. But I'll be damned if I'm going to mourn someone whose greatest contribution to the world was to leave it. And for black women who are sad and crying over him, this is what he thought about you. This is a quote from Charlie Kirk. Black women do not have the brain processing power to be taken seriously. You have to go and steal a white person's slot. That's what he thinks of you. Yeah. That's right. Let me get with some of this here. Because I don't want you to get mixed up. Okay? Because Charlie Kirk was really an awful person. I got some other stuff here. Wait a minute. I didn't read that, did I? No. Okay. All right. Wait a minute. I must got it here. Wait a minute. Give me a second, y'all. Instead of starting with that suspense, dude. Yeah. Now, here's the thing. All right, with this Charlie Kirk. Mm-hmm. Before they knew who did it, they were trying to fix it up to blame black people. In Utah, one of the whitest goddamn states in the nation. All right, what is it's like 85% white. And this was at a Utah university, where the people, and a Mormon university, where the people are, it's about 90% white. And if you look at the video, I don't think there were any black people even in the crowd. Mm-hmm. So they were planning this up. Yeah, they were planning it up, baby. That's what they were doing. They were planning on blaming black people for this. Okay? To the extent that HBCUs were forced to have a lockdown. Virginia State, the campuses were locked down, classes were canceled after receiving a potential threat. Hampton suspended non-essential activities, classes canceled for 2 days following the threat. These white supremacists threatened Alabama State University, which was on lockdown because of terroristic threat from white supremacists, America's biggest terrorists. And that list goes on. Southern University, Bethune-Cookman University, Clark Atlanta University, Spelman, Morehouse. Mm-hmm. Well, what happened? Well, I'm going to tell you. The far-right Civil War has been canceled due to the shooter being demographically and ideologically uncooperative with their messed up narrative. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Meet Charlie Kirk, suspect shooter from Utah. He's from Utah. Tyler Robinson, 22 years old. His bio, he's pro-gun. He comes from a conservative family. His father is a retired sheriff and a Mormon minister. He was raised with guns and shooting. And yes, he's white. Make no mistake about that. Didn't fit your narrative, did he? Yeah. Nah. Oh, you should have heard some of these right-wingers coming out trying to blame the left and fix it up so that black people was at fault in this. Yeah, that's what they were trying to do. Trying to fix it up so that we were at fault here. Like we had something to do with this, with Charlie Kirk's murder. Mm-hmm. The governor of Utah. Look how he slipped his racism in there. Check this out. Check this out. Spencer Cox, the governor of Utah, he boasted during a press conference. See how Utah reacts? No riots, no looting. What's he doing? He's drawing from a false and dangerous contrast. He's comparing the public outrage that erupts when police murder citizens, often unarmed black people, to the calm that follows when a young white man does what young white men do. And that's the problem. When a young white man commits violence, even mass shootings, the response is framed as an individual's mental health crisis, a tragic mistake, or an isolated incident. The community isn't collectively punished or demonized. No one deploys armored vehicles into white suburbs. Maybe they need to. No one paints the entire racial group as inherently criminal. But when police kill someone from a marginalized community, the killing itself is treated as routine, while the outrage afterward is pathologized. Protesters are labeled as thugs, rioters, or looters. Even when the vast majority are peaceful, people are told to respect the process, even though that same process rarely holds police accountable. The anger is criminalized while the killing is normalized. So when Governor Cox congratulates Utah for its quiet reaction, what he's really revealing is this. In places where white grief is treated with compassion, black grief is treated like a threat. Where white violence is individualized, black protest is collectivized and condemned. And that double standard is exactly why people protest in the first goddamn place. Wake up. Yeah. Oh, well, you know, he was so young. He was so young. He was only 31. Tamir Rice was 12. George Stinney, have you heard of George Stinney? He was 14 when he was executed in 1944, the youngest person ever put to death in the U.S. in the 20th century and posthumously exonerated. Emmett Till was 14. Kamani Gray was 16. Trayvon Martin was 17. Michael Brown was 18. Oscar Grant was 22. Rakia Boyd was 22. Stephon Clark was 22. Neil Wilson was 21. Fred Hampton was 21. He was so young. Yeah. Since they now recognize how young 31 is, remember, most of those names didn't make it to 30. Many never had a chance to become elders, to see their work bear fruit, or to grow in peace. Their stolen futures are a collective wound and a call to keep fighting for the living. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. Man. WHGE 95.3 FM, Patrice Gibbs here. Okay, one of my favorite commentators, Rashad Richey. I found myself in deep disagreement with Rashad this week over the killing of Charlie Kirk. Okay, because he said we should have empathy for a man who condemned empathy. Charlie Kirk said empathy is modern day. What is that? I forgot what exactly. Do I got it on here? No, I don't. But Yeah, he said empathy is not something that is a good thing. And just to give you some of his favorite quotes. Gay people should be stoned to death. What kind of crap is that? Most people are scared when they see a black pilot flying a plane. No one should be allowed to retire. He wanted us to work until we did. That's because the right wing funneled all that money to him. Remember, white supremacy is lucrative. Leftists should not be allowed to move to red states. You know what? Who the hell wants to? Damn. It's like saying leftists shouldn't be allowed to move back to the 50s. Who the hell wants to? British colonialism is what made the world decent. You ever heard the term, the sun never sets on the British Empire? You know what one of the biggest holidays in the world is? Celebrated by all these people that the colonizing British invaded? Is Independence Day from them nasty ass British. Kirk said the guy who assaulted Pelosi should be bailed out. Religious freedom should be terminated. Multiple black politicians stole white people's spots. The Great Replacement theory is a reality. Okay? Women's natural place is under their husband's control. You see women crying over this fool. Parents should prevent their daughters from taking birth control. And of course, when he was asked about abortion, if his daughter was 10 years old and raped, he said he would force her to carry that child to term. This is sorry, God. Ain't no empathy for no mess like that. He said the Civil Rights Act was a huge mistake. He said that Dr. King was an awful person. That makes me want to pop a black person upside the head that got any empathy for this fool. And the thing that you should remember, what he said before he was murdered: gun deaths are acceptable in order to have a Second Amendment. Boy, you was true to your word because you lived right up to it, didn't you? You want me to have sympathy for this? I just can't see it. Moving right along. WHGE 95.3 FM. Dope and I. Quite a few times here on Open Eye, you've heard me quote Shaheed Bolson. Now, for those of you who don't know, Shaheed Bolson is actually a white American of, German-Irish descent, okay, who converted to Islam. Now, if you hear this dude speak, his rhythm and cadence and the way he speaks, he sounds more like a brother from the Nation of Islam. And I do often quote him, but don't get it mixed. I am by no way confused, because he is Muslim first. Remember when Saudi Arabia offered to build 200 mosques in Burkina Faso? What was that about? That was about slowing down the progress that Ibrahim Traoré was making in Burkina Faso by using what they've always used, the tool of religion. So, like I said, don't get it mixed. I'm not confused about who Shaheed Bolson said. But a broken clock is right twice a day. And with that being said, let me quote him now. No, for me personally, I didn't care about Charlie Kirk yesterday, the day before, and I don't care about him now. I don't mourn and I don't celebrate. That's strategic indifference. And I don't respect anyone who tries to tell me that I'm supposed to grieve. And I don't respect anyone who tells me that I'm supposed to be happy. What is he to me, or me to him? He certainly isn't more important to me than the most likely hundreds of thousands of my brothers and sisters that you cut down in Gaza. You didn't mourn any of them, and that I didn't tell you to because I already know how you are. I already know that your performance of mourning Charlie Kirk has nothing whatsoever to do with respect for human life. He was just a vessel for an ideology that you hold sacred. Excuse me. And it's an ideology that dehumanizes people. It's an ideology that disregards the sanctity of life. And we've seen that on full display for the past 2 years. So no, obviously not. I'm not the least bit interested in accommodating your weaponization of selective compassion and selective sympathy. Now, if you want to paint my indifference, if you want to spin my indifference as if it's approval of the crime that was committed, well, okay. I already know that you never do anything but lie anyway. And I know that you are from exactly the same manipulated, mutated, mutilated, and maladjusted population that created the demand that the power structure meant by giving you Charlie Kirk. And that same power structure gave you his killer. Meaning, you are just part of that mob in the United States. That same collective monster that's responsible for the American genocide of the indigenous people, that's responsible for genocides in Guatemala, genocides in Bangladesh, in Iraq, in Cambodia, in East Timor, in West Papua. Look that up. And in Gaza. And you're the same collective monster that's responsible for every atrocity, every heinous crime that your country has ever committed. As far as I'm concerned, you poisoned Charlie Kirk's mind before he could even have a chance at a decent or moral life. And you poisoned the mind of the one who took the life of Charlie Kirk. So spare me your counterfeit moralizing. No. You turned your country into a psychological and spiritual torture chamber. And then your country turned the globe into a physical and economic torture chamber. And now that system, that same system that served you, is turning inwards on you. Now, I told you that political violence, division, terrorism, civil unrest, and turmoil, I told you, all this is going to be coming home. Why? Because that's your business model. That's your business model, and you're the only market left to vanquish. And the more you give up, the more you give yourself up to all these twisted, polarizing, hateful narratives, the more you're just playing along with your own demolition. Truer words never spoken. All right. Come around to the close here. Equality, not hate. All they wanted was equality. And for that, they were murdered. 4 men, 4 assassinations. Political violence written into the DNA of this country. Medgar Evers, shot in the back in his own driveway in front of his wife and children by white supremacist Byron De La Beckwith. It took decades to get justice for his killing. Evers worked with the NAACP, simply fighting for equality. Malcolm X, shot 21 times, assassinated in a joint effort between the NYPD and COINTELPRO, a covert program of the FBI. Oh yeah, we know who were the shooters. Don't get it mixed. And he left behind a wife and children he would never see grow up. He fought for equality and dignity for black people. Martin Luther King Jr., April 4th, 1968, shot on a balcony at the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee. He left behind a wife and children too. He was assassinated by white supremacist Jane Earl Rowe with the assistance of COINTELPRO. He fought for equality. Fred Hampton, December 4th, 1969, shot in his bed while asleep next to his pregnant fiancée. His killers were the Chicago Police Department and COINTELPRO. He was only 21. He fought for equality. Political violence is as American as guns. Yet, when these men were murdered, most media did not treat it as a tragedy. No flags were lowered to half-staff, no national mourning, no monuments of grief. They weren't spreading hate. They weren't calling for blood. They were demanding a better life without racism, and it cost them their lives. Equality, not hate. I love you, black man. I love you, black woman. I love you, black children. Knowledge is power. Power to the people. WHGE 95.3 FM. The Open Eye. All right. Coming to a close here. All right. I hope you learned something. Because I learned something before I got here. And as we always tell you, destiny determines who enters your life, but you decide who stays. Therefore, value those who value you, and don't treat those as a priority who treat you as an option. This has been Open Eye on WHGE 95.3 FM. I'm Patrice Gibbs. Thanks for joining us. All right. Thanks for joining us. Hope you learned something. I got the full hour in. As word, tuned in today to see Brother Alan Lawrence. As word. And as I always tell you, don't think I forgot global African supremacy. Because the world was a better place when the black man ruled. Peace.